Hello, this is Simon Dudley, and this is a Hello, this is Simon Dudley. If you're getting a copy of this video, a couple of things. Firstly, please treat it even as private to you. This is not going to be a polished presentation. And secondly, I'm very interested in your thoughts on this data. So I've been doing some research and kicking around some ideas around the case for infrastructure renaissance. So in other words, clients moving some of their cloud solutions back on prem, partly because no one trusts each other anymore. Patently, things like the new rules that the US government has brought in says that US government can basically look at anything they like if it's connected to a US company. So the opportunity to do sovereign clouds is one option, although there's lots of holes in that argument as to whether it can actually be done. And secondly, what's it look like to have an on-prem solution, and what's that do to the market? So I've got some data here. I'm very interested in your opinion as to whether you think that I'm smoking crack or this actually does seem to make sense. Because if it does, and we get a series of people who think that that does make sense, I was planning to write some articles about this. All right, so let's do a bit of background first. So here's estimated infrastructure revenue in US dollars in millions. Now this is primarily going to be bridge ports, right? We're not really talking about recording and other technologies, although that's going to be part of the opportunity here. So, not hardly surprising if you look back over the last 20 years with some pretty big 10% error bars. We're talking about a market that back in 2011 was about $700 million and now is about $300 million. Does that feel right to you? If it does, well, let me know. If it doesn't, tell me what you think it is. These are estimated multi-way port cost per or bridge cost per port, going down from about $1,700 all the way back in 2000 down to about $550 in today's money. I can't tell you that it's really linear, but if I put the linear number in, it comes up between what I believe to be the case now and what the case was back in 2000. Again, tell me if you think I've got this number wildly wrong. Next is estimated ports in service. I used 8 years as the average life expectancy of an MCU. I don't know if that's right or not. It feels about right to me. An average endpoint has a life expectancy of about 5 or 6 years. I'm going to guess that most customers who've got their own infrastructure have probably had it a while. So 8 years doesn't feel too bad. If that is the case, then there's about 600,000 ports in use on a global basis today. Now, all these numbers probably exclude China because it's completely opaque over there and a completely different world. But for the rest of the planet, about 600,000 feels about right. Then we got what the cloud revenues have been over the last, well, whatever it is, 25 years now. Again, estimates, and perhaps not overly important as to how big these numbers are, but we're talking now about $12 billion a year. That would include WebEx, Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, probably a few other players as well. Now, if we believe those numbers to be true, and at this point I do, but the reason I'm producing this little video is to get your opinion on this, is this is the number of cloud minutes, by the way, about 1.5 billion or some other crazy number. So if we convert as an industry, moving forward from this year onwards, we start moving those customers who've moved from a cloud solution and realize that maybe we want some of our calls to be internal on our own technology that can't be looked at by various governments. I don't think anyone's going to go back and say, you know what, we were running Teams, but now we're going to do all of it ourselves. There is already a market for that. That's the federal government, a few large corporates. That's the blue in this graph. But if over the next 10 years we move 0.75% a year of video calls from cloud solutions to On Prem ones. So M&A meetings, board meetings, meetings with the chairman, whatever the rules are that organisations set that say a certain percentage of calls move to our own technology, partly because we don't want governments looking at it, partly because we don't want some other companies' AI looking at this data. We go from a tiny number, about $60 million in 2025, up to something like $700 million. And that implies no growth in the cloud market, by the way, no growth in units in the cloud market or minutes in the cloud market. And suddenly this market over the next 10 years grows to being back nearer $1 billion a year. That looks really interesting. The question is, do you agree that this seems sensible? Now, the chances are, if you've got this video, you are already in this space, and therefore it's probably self-serving. I don't want this to be self-serving. I want a number that's defensible. Hence the reason you're getting a copy of this before I start making this as a widely available thing on the internet. Tell me what you think, people, please. I really want to have, and feel free to give me a call and we can chat about it, or just comment back on this. All right, talk to you soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.